Hello? There we go. I'm going to call to order the second, or actually third meeting of the Waytown Charter Commission. And we'll take a roll call, please. We'll do that. All right. Before we do roll call, we need to swear in Sandy Hartwell, please. Teresa, can you do that?
I, Sandy Hartwell,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess all the qualifications
that I possess all the qualifications
for Charter Commissioner
for Charter Commissioner
as prescribed by law,
as prescribed by law,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Missouri,
and the state of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws
provisions of all laws
of this state,
of the state,
affecting the city of this class,
affecting the cities of this class,
and the ordinances of
and the ordinances of
the city of Waytown, Missouri,
the state of Waytown, Missouri,
and faithfully demean myself
and faithfully keep myself
in office.
in office.
Welcome, Sandy. All right, now we'll do roll call.
Jim Major, Ted Bowman,
Here.
Susan Bowman, Janet Emerson. Here. Lisa Emerson here. Jason Green.
Here.
Steve Gunther.
Here.
Sandra Lawson. Here. Michael McDonough. Charlotte Lawson.
Here.
Mark Miller.
Here.
Regina Van Busker. Here. Ray Walters.
Okay. With that done, we need to ratify the meeting that we had last night. Our standing rules, we are to have meetings every second and fourth Monday of the month in the City Hall chambers at 6:30. However, after we made that standing rule, we found out that there was a conflict with the city, and so for convenience sake, we met and rescheduled the meeting last night to today's meeting at 6:30, May 13th, and then our second meeting this month will be moved to May 27th at 6:30 in the Chamber Halls. I have moved to suspend the rules in order to adjourn to today's meeting, no place and time. I therefore move that we ratify the suspension of the rules voted on and approve at that meeting, and take a second. Or we don't need a second.
All second.
Okay. Please, will you do a roll call, please, vote?
All in favor of the suspension of rules, ratify the suspension of rules. Jim Major, is it okay if we skip it?
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson. Yes. Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell. Yes. Charlotte Lawson.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
Mary Jane Van Busker.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to the minutes from the April 29th meeting and the brief meeting that we had last night, the minutes of that, which were sent to all the commissioners, and hopefully as we go through and we get our minutes, we actually review them at home and get that information back to Lisa if there are any changes before the meeting. We're going to give a couple minutes for anybody that had not had a chance to review their minutes, and then we take a motion to approve the minutes for April 29th first. Lisa?
I wanted to mention that the minutes were posted online before today, although I did not get them out to the media about today's, yesterday's meeting, but they were up to them.
Thank you. Would you like to motion that, please?
I would like to make a motion to approve regular charter minutes of April 29th and of May 12th.
I said, Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson. Yes. Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green,
Yes.
Steve Duncan,
Yes.
Sarah Hartwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Mary Jean Van Busker.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the secretary's report, please.
Our chairman has explained the reason for rescheduling of this meeting. Our chairman has explained the reason for the rescheduling of this meeting and the necessity of requiring ratification of the vote to suspend the standing meeting rule. Last week, in order to allow for efficiency and for this commission to still be able to meet in May rather than have its business held up for 2 to 4 weeks, I sent out an email to the body suggesting the date change and then with consensus sent out an email to City Hall and to the press with the information. We have since met as required, as the chairman stated, and the minutes have been provided.
Okay, old business, I'm going to give a report. Jason Green helped us with getting hold of Mr. Markinson with the Missouri Municipal League, and as he was in conversation with him, we had originally set a fee of $100 for this information, to have Mr. Markinson come and review the charter process with us. At that time, Jason found out that the cost was actually $150. I would accept the motion that we amend our previous decision from $100 to $150, please.
So moved. Second.
Very good, thank you. Any discussion?
Well, I see Mr. Marcus is shaking his head.
I agreed 100. Yeah, I think I said 150, but I told him I had 100, so I made my statement was for 100.
I'll remove my,
Well, I accept bonuses and tips, but that's not necessary.
well, thank you. Great, great. Okay. We'll have to rescind that motion then.
If you would like to make a motion to rescind the motion that we pay Mr. Markinson $150.
I second that motion to rescind the motion.
Lisa, will you call the vote? Microphone.
What are we?
We're voting to.
I guess we have to vote on that.
If the person making the motion
Oh,
is a second agrees.
Perfect. All right, Mr. Markinson, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, and great town guests. I appreciate your inviting me to talk about home rule charters. Mr. Chairman, I've been here before. One of your other charter events many years ago. We're going to be very informal, and if you have questions at any time, please jump in with your questions. Don't wait till I pause. I will take some pauses to give you a chance, but if you have questions, jump in with them immediately. My background, first of all, I worked for the Missouri Municipal League for 40 years. The last 30, I was the executive director. I retired 4 years ago, and for kicks, I kind of go around and help cities with charters, and train city councils and so on. Just to keep my mind from turning to mush. Last year I helped US Plains on their charter to get them started, and they passed an equal with, I'm proud to tell you, 77% of the vote. So they did a very good job down in West Plains. And I tell you this, Mr. Chairman, because their chairman was the political science professor at Missouri State, and just a really sharp person. And if you have questions, you should feel free to call him. He'd be a great source for you. You can get a copy of their budget and all kinds of stuff from him. And you can reach him through their city hall, and their city clerk will be able to get the information from their city on how to reach him. Just a brief outline about what I'm going to do this evening. First, we're going to talk about the difference between statutory cities and home rule cities. Second, we're going to talk briefly about the process and the Constitution, the guidance that the Missouri Constitution gives you for what you're about to do. And finally, we're going to talk about Markinson's advice to charter commissions. You can take some of this advice, you can ignore some of this advice. There's no extra charge for this advice, and it's based on my experience with probably 15, 18 charter commissions over the years. And your task, of course, is not just drafting the charter, but educating the voters. Drafting the charter is just half of it. Talk about classification of cities in Missouri. There's two types of cities in Missouri. There are statutory cities and home rule cities. The formal name for a home rule city is a constitutional charter city. Home rule city, constitutional charter city, the same thing. I call them home rule cities because I have a hard time pronouncing constitutional charter cities. But you're going to hear both of them, and I just want you to know that they're the exact same thing. Let's talk about statutory cities first. There's villages, there's fourth-class cities, there's third-class cities. You all know what Raytown is currently. They're a fourth-class city. You know what the largest fourth-class city in Missouri is? Anybody? Raytown. Remember? St. Peter's, St. Charles County. And Gladstone's, not Gladstone, that's my city. Grandview is right behind you. They're about 25,000, fourth-class city. As a fourth-class city, you're regulated by Chapter 79 of the statutes that sets forth your structure of government and the options you have and the duties of your officers. Statutory cities are governed by state law. You only have the powers and forms of government specifically granted by state statute. And you have relatively few options. For example, you have no authority for initiative and referendum. The statutes say that you divide your city into at least 2 wards and elect 2 aldermen with staggered 2-year terms from each ward. You elect your mayor for 2 years. Recently, there's been some options for fourth-class cities. The council can give the mayor a 4-year term. I don't know if you've done that in Raytown. Yeah, okay. And the council can have a 4-year term, but that takes a vote of the people, for members of the Board of Aldermen to have a 4-year term. So the municipal league has over the years given you some options, but there's a lot of things you can't do. For example, you can't elect some of your council members at large. They all have to come from wards to each ward. Anything that's not specifically authorized by statute is prohibited. Back in the 1960s, fourth-class cities had no authority to control weeds on private property. The legislature gave you that authority in 1967. Prior to that, it required people to cut their weeds. They could grow and cause all kinds of problems. There's nothing that you can do. Same thing with dangerous buildings. That authority was given to you in 1969. If buildings are about to collapse, now you can go in and require them to be leveled off and made safe. Whatever the legislature gives you, they can take it away. They can either do it purposefully or they can do it accidentally. accidentally repeal laws they didn't know they were repealing. They have to go back next year and enact them. Another problem is that the statutes applying to fourth-class cities are kind of archaic because they've been adopted over the last 130 years by legislators from throughout Missouri to apply to all the fourth-class cities. And so what they've adopted to apply to you applies to East Lynn, Missouri, place I'm going to in 2 weeks, that has about 700 people. So, you know, they may not fit right now. Also, you're subject to further changes in the statutes, whether you like it or not. When I was with the municipal league, every year we had bills in, one saying that in fourth-class cities you had to appoint your police chief, you couldn't elect a marshal. And on the other hand, in third-class cities, and another bill said you had to elect your municipal judge. You couldn't appoint your municipal judge. There's always stories behind these bills, by the way, that go back to a particular city. We'd always have to scurry around and defeat these bills. Part of our terms of office. They always like to, there's always bills dealing with terms of office for collectors and mayors and so on. And what the municipal league would always do is make them local options, change them to a local option. You're going to find people who say, everything's just fine right now, I don't want to change it. Well, the only way they can guarantee you keep what you have is to put it in the charter, because then the legislature can't change it. That's statutory cities. And I will take one of my pauses to see if there's any questions so far. We're going to talk about home rule or constitutional charter cities now.
I do have a question.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I didn't pause long enough.
I mean, you just made a statement that really concerns me. So everything that the city of Graytown has adopted as far as codes and ordinances, if it can be possibly repealed by the state, it could be. Is that what I'm hearing? Well,
Sure. They could remove your authority to adopt building codes by reference, or all technical codes by reference. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're a statutory city, the legislature controls. Home rule cities. Let's talk a little bit about the history of federalism. It sounds boring, but it's really fascinating. Going back to the early 1800s, the conflicts between the federal government, the states, and the cities, but we're going to start in about 1865. We're going to be really brief. Civil War's over with. Everyone's moving west. Coming through Raytown, going west. Cities are growing all over the Midwest from the west. What did a city need to thrive in 1870? What was the interstate highways in 1870? Railroads. If the railroad hit your city, you were going to prosper. If the railroad missed your city, you were going to blow away in the wind. So what cities started doing is issuing bonds, building railroad spurs to hook up with the railroad when it missed them. Those lines went broke, the bonds got forfeited, people lost their savings, there was a huge hue and cry for lawsuits. They ended up in a judge in Iowa, Judge Dillon, in about 1870 or so. And he issued an opinion that became known as Dillon's Rule. Judge Dillon said, cities are creatures of the state, and they only have those powers that the state specifically gives them or could be implied. That was the law in 1870, and it's still the law today for statutory cities. But immediately after his decision, the Home Rule movement began. And believe it or not, Missouri led the way. In 1875, we adopted a new constitution. And in that constitution, we provided that our largest cities could provide their own structure of government by drafting home rule charters for adoption by the voters. We led the nation There are those of us who spent our careers working in local government who feel that was the last time Missouri led the way in anything innovative for our cities, but back in 1875, we were cutting edge. In 1946, we lowered the population requirement to 10,000 people. And in 1971, we amended the Missouri Constitution again. We did two things. First, we lowered the population to 5,000. And the second thing is far more important. We gave home rule cities much more flexibility and authority to solve their own problems. Prior to 1971, a charter was a grant of powers. You had to find the power in your charter. So charters would have a section on weed control, dangerous buildings, dog control, and everything else. It was in their charters. And after 1971, the charter became a limitation on powers. And home rule cities were assumed to have all the powers, not specifically limited or prohibited by the Constitution, by state laws, or the charter. So instead of having a chapter on weeds in your charter, you just be silent on it. And you adopt an ordinance on weeds. What did this do to your job in drafting a charter?
Simplified.
Oh, yes, it simplifies it. You look at the pre-71 charters, look at Kansas City's, look at St. Louis, look at Independence, look at Blue Springs and Lee Summit. 30, 40 pages. Much, much shorter, much easier to do. You're doing the skeleton, and it's fleshed out by ordinances later on. You put the basic structure in there, and then it's filled out by ordinances. It makes things much, much easier. Much easier. We have 41 home rule cities in Missouri. They've adopted a wide variety of charters and forms of government. Some of them are council manager, like my hometown, University City, or Columbia, or Joplin. Some have city administrator, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, Belton, Raymore. And some just have mayor council, Palmyra, Florissant. The term charter is a neutral term. You may come across someone who says, I lived in Kansas City, they have a charter, I didn't like Kansas City, so I'm against the charter. That doesn't make sense. They're against the Kansas City charter, which has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's what goes into the charter that matters. The term charter is meaningless. It's what goes into it. The basic philosophic assumption about what you're doing is that the citizens of Raytown can best devise their own constitution rather than rely on state laws. That's the assumption. A couple of things that will help you. I've told several of you about the model charter for Missouri cities published by the Missouri Municipal League. Every single one of you need this. It's going to be your Bible for the next year. It's got everything you need to know. It's got a section on all the issues you need to resolve. It tells you everything you need to know about home rule. So if you don't have it, I'm sure the city clerk's office can get those off the NML website for you. Also, you can get other charters. Your chairman said he's got 4 or 5 that he's memorized already. Again, do not get any of the pre-1971 charters. You're wasting your time. Only get charters that were adopted after 1971. So don't get Independence or Kansas City. So that's what a home rule city is. And any questions about that? I'm going to proceed to Markinson's advice, charter commissions.
I do have a question.
Good.
On you said that the charter needs to be that skeleton framework. Is there a template of that sort? Is that what you're referring to?
The model city charter is your template.
that template would be our, kind of our skeleton starting place.
That would be your starting place.
Okay.
On the cities that you have worked with and have used that model city charter structure, how many of them used only that, or how many
Well, no one would use only that, but they would use it as their basis.
The last time we did this, just a few years ago, people wanted to put everything under the sun in it, and it was just a disaster. What do you suggest to cities to look at first when you're looking at a charter, trying to put together a charter?
I would suggest you start with chapter 1 of or section 1 of the model charter and go from there. Chapter 1, it is. Yeah, that's the basic stuff. Probably the city council, the structure of the city council, and powers of the city council. That's what I probably start with. That's often one of the most difficult things. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack because I have not told you what the Missouri Constitution tells you you have to do from this point onward. It doesn't give you a great deal of guidance, but it gives you a little bit. First of all, if you have any vacancies on your commission, someone moves out of town, or they get sick, or they run out of the meeting screening, I don't want to hear any more problems with the Public Works Department, they send you a letter of resignation. The members of the commission fill all vacancies. The city council will pay all necessary expenses of the commission. Well, your primary expenses are going to be printing copies of the charter and an explanation summary of the charter. You're going to have some legal expenses. You may have some expenses that reimburse travel and bring people to talk to you. The charter must be submitted to the voters by April of 2015. God, that seems so far away. In 1 year. As a practical matter, I think you should be done, finalized completely with your work by 8.5 months. Done at the printers, so that you will have time to explain to the voters what's in that charter. If there is a particularly controversial issue that can be separated, you can submit that as a separate issue to the voters. For example, when I lived in Jefferson City, the first time we voted on the charter was in the late 70s, and we still had partisan municipal elections. And the Charter Commission was just unanimous for nonpartisan elections. And they put that into the charter, and Democratic and Republican central county committees got together, and the charter was defeated. About 5 years later, we had a new Charter Commission, and they put that issue as a separate, they separated that out, and partisan elections won. The charter was adopted, and partisan elections won. And then about 5 years after that, the council submitted a charter amendment to go to nonpartisan, and that passed overwhelmingly.
A charter, not an ordinance.
Charter, yeah, that's, and we'll talk about amending the charter in just a minute. In fact, we'll talk about it now. The charter is adopted by a simple majority, 50% plus 1. Your charter is not like the Ten Commandments. It's not etched in stone. It can be amended. There's 3 ways to amend a charter. One way is to elect a new charter commission. This is used only by those pre-1971 cities that may have lots of changes to make in the charter. The second way is the city council can put a charter amendment to a vote of the people. And 2, a petition signed by 10% of the registered voters can put a charter amendment before the voters. charters can be amended, and if you make mistakes, no problem, you just come back and depend on the mistake, I guess, but you can always come back and fix it. And that is all the Constitution tells you. After that, you gotta rely on Parkinson's rules, or Parkinson's advice to charter provisions. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Real quick, you said one of the reasons, one of the avenues a charter could be amended is to do by a petition of 10% of the registered voters. I assume that's the avenue of how all charter cities post 1971 operate when they're amending their charters. I guess what I'm getting at, is there any need for a charter commission, when they write a charter, to put some kind of charter review commission or anything like that?
I have heard of that being done, and it would say something like 5 years from the adoption of the charter, the city council will appoint a review committee to make recommendations to the council on charter amendments. I have heard, I can't tell you which cities do it, but I do know that some do it. Not a bad idea. So the Constitution doesn't tell you very much. Yes, did you have a question?
You did say that the city council pays for all expenses of the commission, and is there, so that's the only guideline, is that the city council has to pay?
Let me get the exact word that's used in the Constitution. All necessary expenses.
And there's no definition of
That is correct.
And there's no cap.
That's correct. I only know one problem that's caused. I'm trying to think of what city it was. Where they hired a law firm and they sent the city a humongous bill, and the city negotiated with the law firm and got it reduced. Was that you guys? Oh!
That's what I'm asking. Because there does need some structure to cost. I mean, it just can't be.
I'm talking about that in my advice to charter commissions, but basically what I'm going to say is your officers should prepare a budget and give it to the city so the city knows how to do their own budget and what to budget for you. And that's why I suggested West Plains would be a good city to contact to get a copy of their budget, since they just went through it. Also, Nixa is a relatively recent charter. It's been about 3-4 years, but they probably just have that information on what their budget was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you've all got your oath of office, you've elected your officers. I think the officers should meet and prepare a budget, give it to the city council, give it to the city administrator. That's just fair to them so they know how to budget their own money and prepare for you. And also, I think you should have a timeline on chapter by chapter how you're going to do this charter. There's nothing worse than 7 months from now waking up and realizing you're only halfway through. Yes, sir.
You said the officers do that.
I recommend that they do. There's nothing that I'm telling you that you have to do. These are all my advice.
Well, and I'm not opposed to that. I would just want to make sure that the officers, whoever they are at the time, would make sure that they brought that to commissioners for.
Sure. Sure. Have them prove it.
Yeah. And then to them with that.
Good. Good point. You prepare it, they approve it. You need to select a meeting time and an adjournment time. The worst mistakes elected city officials make occur after 10 o'clock at night. After 10 o'clock at night, they'll vote on anything to get to go home. Adjournment, I think you should adjourn at 10 o'clock at night. And it's amazing how people will put their business into the time slot that they have and they know that there's a 10 o'clock adjournment. Also, you need the appropriate setting. And I need to tell you, I'm not wild about your setting here. I prefer a conference table with an open spot at the end where people can talk to you. This is just a little bit too formal, but this is up to you. I'm just telling you my opinion. I would like the city to set up a big square conference table with a spot for people to talk to you from. Take it for what it's worth. You need some operating rules. Because sooner or later, he's going to make a motion. She's going to offer an amendment. She's going to offer a substitute. You're going to say you're confused and you want to postpone it to next week, and you need to know how to take those motions in order. The city may have some good operating rules that you could adopt. Some people adopt Robert's Rules of Order, but nobody reads Robert's Rules of Order. There's a simplified Robert's Rules of Order.
That's what we adopted.
You've already adopted it. You're way ahead of me. Okay. All of your commission meetings and any committee meetings that you have are subject to the open meetings law. This is very important. You have to post notice 24 hours, exclusive of weekends. Who's going to post your notices? City clerk, your secretary. That needs to be understood by all parties who's going to do that. There's nothing worse than the Kansas City Star talks about the Raytown Charter Commission violates the Sunshine Law. You don't want that. So you need to make sure who's going to post. Okay. Who's going to post? You need to encourage public involvement and keep the news media informed of what you're doing. A lot of charter commissions wait till and after the charter is at the printers and they sit down with the news media. It's much better to meet with them a couple times beforehand. I like to take them to coffee. You know who the reporters who cover your city or the radio stations. Take them for coffee and tell them, here's some of the problems we're having. We haven't quite decided this, but we worked out this issue. They'll buy into the program. And you're not coming to them when it's over with. They may have suggestions for you. Get them involved. The more people you get involved, the better off you're going to be. Decide if you want to record sessions. I'm sure you've already done that. Okay. Decide if you want to form committees. Some charter commissions will form committees. The most common ones are finance, administration and legislation, and personnel and transition. And some charter commissions work as a group of the whole. You've got your choice. You need to determine if the city is going to provide you with services, or if you have to hire your own secretarial services, legal services. You want to be able to call on an attorney if you need it. You can call on the city attorney. That needs to be worked out with your city administrator. I would suggest you invite city officials, past and present, to talk about the current structure of government in Raytown and the problems that they've encountered. Everyone on your commission needs to have a thorough knowledge of the existing structure of government. And I know a lot of you have been on city council, some of you are on city council, but others aren't, and you should bring them all up to speed so that everyone has the same information. If you need public input, I suggest you come up with a list of civic leaders in your community and formally invite them by letter to talk to the commission. Most of them won't do it, but boy, they'll sure be flattered that you asked, and they'll know you tried. And they'll remember that. Start your education efforts early. Don't wait till you're done. Talk to your news media. Talk to your civic groups. You get a list of the civic groups, the Rotary, the Kiwanis, the Elks, the Lions, whatever you have here in Raytown, Chamber of Commerce. Don't go to them after you're done. Go to them once before you're done, just to tell them what you're doing. So they won't be surprised when you say, hey, next month we're voting on a charter. Well, where did that come from? You get in there and talk to them. So you thought you were just going to have to sit up there one night. You can spread some of this around. You don't have to do it all on your own. sure you know this, is when you do your charter, when it's all done, make sure you have a 2-page summary of the charter. You know, you may draft a fabulous document, you may be so proud of it, you may think it rivals Plato's Republic. I got a lot of relatives in right now, not in the case, they're not going to read your 40-page charter. But they'll read a 2-page summary. They'll read a 2-page summary. It's not a campaign piece I'm talking about here. It's not vote yes. Here's what the charter does. And again, the city pays for that too. Okay, what this is an opportunity for you to draft a charter to conform with the needs of Greytown. Your motto should be preserve the best, improve the rest. Try to approach decisions with an open mind. When you're finished with your charter, but before it goes to the printer, I'd recommend you have an experienced city attorney review it. And I have a number of really good ones in the Kansas City area. You're blessed with some really fine attorneys here. Any one of which would do it, and I think it would only cost the city a few $100, but you need to do that. It needs to be reviewed by an attorney. And then you go to work explaining it, and your work is done. I've given your chairman my phone number, and I'd be glad to entertain, if you have questions during your deliberations, he's welcome to call me. I'm glad to help. Other than that, I'm glad to answer any questions you have. We can talk about why some city charters fail. That's always an interesting topic. But then I think you probably know more than I do about that, so. That completes what I had to say to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it was very informative. And I think it was also not only informative for us, but it was informative for the general public that got a chance to hear it, because they're the ones that elected us to do this job, and we want to make sure we do it correctly for them.
I assume this is on your local cable TV. Yeah.
Yes, it will be.
Good. I'll have to call up my relatives and watch them. They always wondered what I did. Now they won't know any more than they did before.
All right, thank you very much. If there's any other questions for Mr. Marks, I will definitely be back with you though.
Anytime, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and continue on. We'll go to, well, is there anybody else with old business that they might want to bring up before we go on to new business? Seeing none, I'm going to entertain a possible amendment to our special rule. I'm going to move that following, that apart from incidental motions, we require members to be recognized by the chair in order to obtain the floor. And secondly, that we require the motions for votes. And third, that we require motions to be seconded before they can be discussed. And lastly, that we allow call to questions on motions. Does everybody understand that? If not, I will let Lisa explain it a little bit further.
Yes, currently with Robert's rules, small groups, we do not have to make formal motions in order to decide on things. We do not have to have seconds to those motions to make them valid. The chair does not have to recognize people before they speak currently, and we also do not have the ability to call to question on any motions. So this would streamline our process and make note-taking more clear, and frankly, our discussions could be a little bit more clear that way, so we're not talking over each other by accident, or anything of that nature.
Does anybody have any questions to that then? Or discussion? If it's clear, we'll take a vote.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green,
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Sandra Harwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Mary Jane Van Bussen.
Thank you. I just thought that after our first meeting, that would help curtail some of the discussion, especially between the charter members and the audience that was taking place last night. So the next thing, I'm going to ask for new nominations for the treasurer. Since we have no treasurer at this point, we'll need the treasurer, obviously, based on Mrs. Markinson's deal to help us put together a budget for the committee. So at this point, I'll take the motion for a nomination. Or move, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I nominate Charlotte Nelson.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any others? Yes.
I nominate Mark Moore.
I second that.
I would ask that both nominees, if they, okay, perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna respectfully decline that nomination.
All right,
But I do appreciate it,
thank you.
and I'll be more than glad to help.
And I'm sure Commissioner Moore would appreciate that if he gets elected to the position. So, is there any other discussion, regarding this thing? Go
I
ahead.
would like to hear Mr. Moore's experience in the financial field.
Well, personally, my financial experience isn't that great in the professional field. Personally, I've traded foreign exchange and so forth, but it seems that no one else wants it. I personally really didn't expect to be nominated for it. I was hoping that someone else would, but since there's no one else in the group that wants to take the reins, I guess I'll just do what I can with what I know about it, if people are willing to help a little bit. I mean, I was elected, so I'm gonna do my best for everybody here. If I make a few mistakes, just don't cut my head off for it, so. I'll do the best I can, I'll just say that.
Was that sufficient for you, or do you have another possible person that might nominate? Are there any other nominations then?
Do we have a nomination?
Seeing such, we have a motion and a second to nominate Mr. Mark Moore for the commission treasurer. So, make a roll call vote.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green,
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Sandra Harwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Mary Jane Van Bussen.
Abstain.
Okay, by a vote of 8 for and 1 abstention and no against, congratulations, Mr. Moore. At this point, I would take some information, or ask Jason, in regards to possible creation of points of contact. This is something I discussed with him at the end of this week, and share his information with the group.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A suggestion that I offered was to have a point of contact for the City Hall. In reference to City Hall, I felt that there was some interesting avenues for dialogue taking place with our contact with requests from the city clerk, and I felt it would be best to have a point of contact for City Hall. That way, anything that we need to ask of the city would go through this individual or individuals. And I would feel free to open this up to see what you guys' opinions are on this. But I don't have a direct motion as of yet in terms of who this individual could be, if it's going to be a separate individual, or if it would be just the elected board, being the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, the secretary, to serve as a point of contact for City Hall. So I guess what I'd like to hear is what you folks think about that idea.
I think it's a good idea. I don't think that we should have point of contact only, the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and treasurer. I think it needs to be, maybe two people, one that's on the board and then another commissioner.
Other discussion?
I kind of agree with what Murray said. That sounds pretty fair. It's like a yin and yang.
Go ahead, Jason.
I agree. I would make a suggestion that if maybe we decide that the chair is the point of contact with City Hall, that the vice chair also in addition could have that authority, if you will, in case the chair is not available, so that I could serve in his position as such. But in addition to that, maybe have another charter commissioner to be a point of contact. That way I think we can organize the dialogue that's taking place. It's more organized and more thought through.
I think it involves more of us. You know, that we're not gonna feel, or that the public is not gonna feel that there's just a group of 3 or 4 that's running the show. I mean, maybe that's a poor term to use, but
This is the whole.
for lack of better.
We agree.
Okay.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I think if you have the chair and the vice chair, one of those is gone, the other one takes over. You know, because it would be the chair and then one commissioner, and then if those individuals were not available, you have the vice chair and you have kind of a vice commissioner or whatever. You know, so you have kind of backup, so if one person's not there, it just doesn't fall apart. Because there will be a lot of contact that will be needed at City Hall.
Go ahead, Ms.
I would suggest the chair and the secretary and the vice chair if the chair's not available.
Without another non-officer? Is that what you're saying? I said, I mean, those are all officers, current officers.
Just because I do a lot of questioning for information for the city so far.
I feel as,
Right,
was
right.
on the agenda is that I think it needs to be at least one other commissioner, besides just the board members.
Well,
Because, you know,
I agree, Sandy. And, you know, Jason's position on this would be if I was not available.
right,
I personally have leaned on Lisa a lot because of her knowledge of parliamentary rule and just her connection with Teresa so far.
right.
But I would definitely entertain one other person that was not an officer to be part of that whole process because, again, it is a group effort here.
I mean, you got a lot of people that are on the city council, I think.
Exactly. I
So
was
that's
thinking
all
the same
that
thing.
knowledge too, so.
Is there any more discussion then in regards to this? Go ahead, please.
I guess if I were to try, I guess I would like to make a motion that the I guess the grounding motion here is that we'll have a point of contact for City Hall. It'll be the chair, the vice chair only if the chair is not available, the secretary, and another individual that we shall elect. Is that correct? Does that sound fine to you, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess, okay, thank you. So the motion would be to elect a point of contact beyond the chair, vice chair when the chair is not available, and the treasurer, or excuse me, and the secretary to be a point of contact at City Hall.
You have a second? Oh, you did second that. Okay, I thought you did. Any other further discussion? Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So we're having 4 people as points of contact. The main 2 would be the chair and the secretary. With backups being the vice chair and one commissioner.
Correct. And what I'm also understanding is the third person on that group would be involved in whatever got discussed before it went to the city. I mean,
Oh.
you know what I'm saying? So that all 3 were making the common decision, I guess you might say.
All
So-
3 of 4.
Well, 3 with information going in if need be.
Okay.
Does that sound right? Do we need to amend that or
I have a question.
go for it?
What if we, for instance, need to ask City Hall, can we have a projector the night beforehand? Or something to that effect, do we need to make a decision amongst 3 of them before we can inquire to City Hall?
Well, that's a good point, but I think, I don't know if we need to get to that detail. I think it's more if we're asking for information from the city or we're transmitting information to the city other than that kind of information. And that's a simple request.
Okay, just, sorry, to clarify, you said submitting information, would this include agendas, minutes, that sort of thing, or would it not?
Well, I would think that once the minutes got approved and everything, then it would automatically be the approval of the additional people on the councils. So, yes, Ed, I see the water bottle.
We were establishing a 3-person point of contact. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
For things other than, I'm not sure I understand the purpose of this committee.
Well, I think what Jason was getting to and what I talked to him about was in the past 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks since our last meeting, there's been a lot of connection with Teresa from different members of the commission, which is somewhat frustrating to me, at least not knowing what's getting transpired between,
Not to mention her.
and very much her, and occupying her time, and that's something that, we don't want to do because that time is costly to the city. And there's going to be information, as Mr. Markinson said, that we have to get all the time.
So we're talking about substantive communications.
Right,
not
exactly.
like a projector.
Right. That's correct. Is that okay with everybody then? Yes, Lisa.
Would Jason make a friendly amendment to say substantive instead of?
Okay, so I'll make a motion for,
You're adding that.
I'm adding to the original motion that this point of contact is for information of great substance. Or that suffices.
All right.
It's not my intention
Oh,
to
no.
use the vote.
On
I
that.
know where this question is going.
Well, I'm glad for clarification because I think it's important that we know exactly what we're asking each of the commissioners to do. With that in mind, is it absolutely clear that, is there any more discussion? Could you reread the motion, please?
Jason Green motion. Jason Green motions that we elect a point of contact for City Hall beyond the chair or vice chair if the chair is unavailable and secretary for informational substance.
Is that okay with everybody? We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green,
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Sandra Rockwell, yes. Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Regina Van Huster.
Yes.
As you can see, I've been working on this a little bit. I had the last 2 weeks to do this, but also with, in regard to public comments and so forth, and having received an email from Greg, which I'd already been working on, but he didn't know that. I'm going to make a motion that we allow up to 3 minutes of public comments at the set point after, let's say, roll call for public comment, and we limit the overall time for public comment to 20 minutes. That way we don't take up all board's time with public comment. And I'll take a discussion of that. Well, I guess I moved, so I'll take a second, or add a discussion.
Did you get a second?
I don't know.
I'll say But I also have a question. And what you stated was to allow 3 minutes of public comments, and is that per person? Okay. That's all right.
I have a question, so
Yes,
it's not actually a statement. I know that there was one of the commissioners wanted to have it after, at the end of the meeting. You're not going to get the public to stay until the end of the meeting, that's unfair to them. So I'm glad you're looking at it at the beginning.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to follow the guidelines that the city already has for city hall meetings and so forth, so. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, just water.
I assume we're talking about these regularly scheduled meetings for the commission. I mean, I can perceive that if we get enough response, that we may need to schedule a meeting for no purpose other than public comment.
And I think that would be followed up in just an agenda or something in one of our upcoming meetings. I mean, we'll just make that as part of the agenda or something. I guess my question would be, as far as the time, does everybody think 3 minutes is plenty? I mean, most conversations or questions are asked in less than a minute, and so.
You put an overall limit of 20 minutes on for
That's
all
right,
people.
for all people, yeah.
21 minutes.
21?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I can agree with that.
And are we gonna have a timer of that? Is that secretary duty? Is that vice chair? She's typing, so probably, I mean, it would have to be somebody, because you really do, and you want to be very polite and respectful of somebody when they're talking, but you also, you know, if you're gonna give one person 3, you can't give the next person 5.
Right. So, does anybody want to volunteer to be a time?
I can use that.
Okay, Lisa, can you restate the motion, please?
Steve Gunther motions that we allow up to 3 minutes of public comments per person after roll call for up to 21 minutes of public comments at regular meetings. Sound like it?
That sounds great. Take a roll call, please.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green.
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Sandra Rockwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Wilson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Regina Busker.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. I guess with so many other things going on here, I did forget to ask for nominations or for the other point of contact. Apologize for skipping that. I don't take any nominations at this time.
Regina Busker.
I'll second that.
Anybody else? Mary Jane, you okay with it? Great.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Jan Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green,
Yes.
Steve Bungalow,
Yes.
Sandra Rockwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Wilson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Regina Busker.
Abstain.
Next order of business, I heard we might have a possible website. Please, you want to inform us, please?
I took it upon myself separately from the committee at that juncture to create a website about our charter business so that we could easily have access to information and documents about charters in Missouri, our own officers, contact information, things of that nature, and about when a location basically to put our minutes and agendas and that sort of thing for both our use, the public's use, and the media's use. So if you'd like, I can go down and show it to you really quickly.
That's it. As she's setting this up, I think this hits on one of the points that Mrs. Markison was giving us as far as trying to keep the general public and everybody advised as we meet with our own civic groups that we're all involved in. It would be good that we let them know that this site is available for them. And as we are in our civic organization, let's try to educate them as to what's going on in the process we're going through. And we'll try to do some type of quick summary for what the charter is going to do so we can actually have a point of reference for us all to speak from. That would be good. Lisa, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Greytown Charter Commission website, it is, I made the website on Google sites, so it's very easy to maintain. If multiple people on the board wanted to help add files, delete files, that sort of thing, change information, it would not be a big deal. Few menus on the side here. The first one, they do them in alphabetical order. So, I put together a couple weeks ago a list of all the charters in Missouri that I could find. I found, I believe, 39 out of 41 charters. These are, the first list are the charters with PDFs that I could find. And all the way down here, you can download them, the media can download them, the public can download them to see what's in them. So we got a lot to look at. I also put a link to what Mr. Markinson was describing about the template for our charters and explanations for each section. That's the charter guide. And then there's a simple document about how Missouri municipalities are classified. Up here are links to charters that do not have PDFs that are downloadable. They are online and you can read them there. And the two I could not find are Augusta and Carthage. And then I also included down here in the downloadable section, Greytown's past 4 proposed charters from 1962, 1967, 1997, and 2005. Jefferson County's charter, just for comparison's sake, if you wanted to see how a county does something versus a city. And of course, the two things I listed earlier, the charter guide and municipality classification. Link to the meetings. We'll discuss our future schedule later. This is the proposed future schedule, so as not to conflict. But it will have meeting dates for the public, list of agendas. Our first meeting, our very brief next meeting, and this meeting's agenda. Minutes from past meetings that I should put, in the future I will put draft if they have not yet been approved, so we don't get confused about what we're looking at. And a link to videos. For instance, Mr. Downing recorded our first meeting, and so that's on YouTube, and I'll put a link to any recordings we have there. A list of our membership, and if they've given me their phone numbers, I put them there. If we have their emails, I put them there, and their names there. Our officers, their information, and any subcommittees we may or may not have, so we can put the new list of points of contact as a subcommittee if we'd like. And the rules the Charter Commission is governed by, just so everybody can have easy access to know how we run, whether it be ourselves or the media. So that's what I've got so far. Any questions, comments, suggestions?
I think you did a really good job on that, and I do appreciate when you sent the email out about it, because I was like, wanted to plan ahead meeting wise, and I think that's something where it is all combined in one spot. And I do want to ask again, it won't have the comments section, so people are not putting comments.
Right, I've disabled the comments section on there. I assume that if the public wants to comment, they can do so at the meetings or email us individually as a group.
Because we now give them that opportunity with the public comment section of our meetings. But you did a lot of good work on that. Thank you.
To look this up, you just type in right now, Charter Commission?
Yes, you can do that, or I will send a link to the media tonight if we approve it as the official website for our body. sites.google.com/site/Raytown Charter.
Go ahead, Jason.
I just want to say thank you. This is awesome. I got a chance to check it out. I think it's great. It organizes what's going on, and it's an important piece to help educate the public on what we're doing, the progress we're making, who the commissioners are, and how to contact them to express any thoughts or ideas to share. Thank you so much. This is
You
wonderful.
are very welcome. That was my intention, is to keep everybody informed and to try to get as many citizens interested and able to communicate back and forth to know what's going on as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Well, then I would make a motion to accept this creative website as one mode of information for Raytown Charter Commission.
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion, any other input that somebody might have? Now, this doesn't stop the process. I think this is a living document as well, so that as we go through the whole charter process, as we find more information or other things that might need to come up or go into that, I would suspect that we would want to make sure that we get that added into that. So. Go ahead, Lisa.
Charlotte, we need a friendly amendment to allow the chair, vice chair, and secretary to be able to edit the website as needed.
I would.
Is that a second? Mark? Mark?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion then? I'll take that
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes, Jason Green.
Yes.
Steve Conklin,
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Regina Van Busker.
Yes.
Thank you. I know we're gonna talk about minutes and meetings later, but I'm gonna make a suggestion that when we do that, that we take Mr. Markinson's advice in that we also have an adjournment time added to that. So, when we get there, that'd be great. Y'all are gonna think I had way too much time on my hands for the last 2 weeks, but I've looked at 5 charters from around our surrounding communities and did an analysis as to what they contained as an outline. I didn't try to get into each specific item because that was just too much, but what I just tried to do was kind of give you an idea of what the surrounding communities are doing, what they have as just a kind of like outline for each one of them. I made that available to Lisa today, and I think she got that out as an email, and I do have a copy. As we're going, I'm just wanting you all to see what has been done. And I know you don't like that paper. And like I said, this is just a summary. It gives us a starting point to what has been done around our community, and together with the guideline that we have for the charter, I think we can begin the actual process of putting this charter together. I mean, as you can see, all the different articles for each one are listed, and then what was contained, and which I think you're going to find is there are a lot of similarities in these charters, and I think by looking at that, there's going to be a lot of items and articles that I don't want to say are just stamp kind of deals, but I mean, I don't think they'll take that long, or I hope they won't take that long to do. As Mr. Markinson again gave us information, though, there were several areas that we'll actually have to spend quite a bit of time just to make sure that we're addressing our current codes and ordinances and rules and regulations for each of those areas. But again, it's just information that I hope if anybody didn't get a chance to look at different charters around our community, they'll have a chance to just see a quick comparison. So at that point, I think we need to, what time is it? I can't quite see in the dark. 7:49. So we do have some time to, I'd like to say, begin this process. I think that in order to make sure that we're all on the same page, my thoughts are on this, that on the ones that tend to be very defined and that we can actually get them done in a group setting, I would like to see the current members of the commission that are also on the city council to help educate the rest of us as to what the current policies are. For example, for the city council, the mayor, and all the different articles that are in there. And I'm not opposed to having subcommittees review these. It's my thought that through subcommittees we can get them reviewed. They can bring the information to the commission, and then as a group we can group discuss them and then decide how we're going to act on them. I do like the idea that the city currently has as far as first and second readings, so that gives us time to not only address the information at one setting, but have a chance to think a little bit more in case we do want to make some alterations and changes. At this point, I think I would like to entertain any other ideas. These are obviously mine, but I'd like to have other people respond to how they think this process should go from here.
First, I'd suggest that everyone get a chance to get this MML model charter. I've had a chance to print this off, and it's a nice template for organization in terms of structuring this. And again, I want to work on this at the will of this commission. I think it'd be a good idea to kind of start, with all these charters are pretty much the same kind of concept in terms of Article 1 is pretty simple, something that I feel like it could be easily voted on at a later date and affirmed. Article 1 talks about incorporation and name and boundaries and things such as that, and implied powers, if you will, of the city, leaving it with that type of wording. So therefore, again, like Mr. Markinson said, you don't have to write a whole article on code or housing maintenance or weed maintenance, if you will, whatever that may be. Article 1 has to do with corporation and boundaries. Like I said, Article 2 has to do with just the implied powers of the city, the construction and such. And I think these are types of things that I feel like could be streamlined, that could be easier, if you will, to vote on by this commission, so that we can start having a template down for what we're doing, how we're doing, and in a sense also creating some sort of a timeline. Again, by using this MML model charter, it's easy to find on the internet. Here, I just did a quick Google search of MML model charter and was able to find it. But I'd be more than willing to let folks, if they don't have access, or have my copy, if you will, or if not, yes, that's fine. It's also on the website there too, yeah. But if you guys don't have a printer, something I can print off for you, you can get it taken care of. But I think this is a great template for us to look at, and my suggestion would be to kind of start, with Article 1. This seems very easy and simple in terms of incorporation into boundaries. Go to Article 2, Article 3, so on, based off this MML model charter.
All right, any other discussion? All right. Yes, oh, I'm sorry. I have one over here first, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I would think that if we go in order, that way we do not get lost as to where we are, and we would have everything in order. So when we had our finalized thing, it would all be there, and we wouldn't get lost, we wouldn't jump around here and there.
All right, Sandy.
Mr. Marcus said something about he had a list of attorneys. I think we need to have somebody take a look at those, take a list and decide, and I'd like to know your feelings about rather than being a public, being down for the public meeting. That was another one of his suggestions.
Well, I think we only did this because of the microphones. Most people know my feelings on group discussions. I tend to like to have them around the table so we can all see each other and talk. And I did like his suggestion as to when we would have public comment that one end of the table would be opened up. The only question then becomes how we can record the conversation. And I don't know if it's possible to get a center mic that we can just pass around, or let the, it could be that we could meet around that table. But I would prefer that versus up here.
This puts us so much about, and we're supposed to be part of it.
I totally agree, Steve. Go ahead.
And I agree, I like that aspect, but then you have sound. And those two mics, it's sometimes more trouble passing them back and forth so the next person's talking kind of thing. I don't know that we have two more. If we had two more, we put them positionally, that might work. The podium can be in the center, how we were placed last time. So again, who's ever talking as public comments are also heard and recorded by the center of the podium. So that might be just something we'll have to explore at City Hall, because it is quite difficult when you don't, even up here tonight, if you don't turn on your mic, you're not heard.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that not only are the commissioners heard, but those in the public that speak are heard.
I will talk to Teresa and see what that possibility might be as far as getting some additional mics. But I would prefer that setting. Is anybody else uncomfortable with that setting, or would you prefer this one?
For the round table, like you're talking.
Okay, I don't think we need a motion to that or something like that, but I agree very much so. And the other part of your
Can you go listen?
correct.
If he knows somebody that would do it less expensively, we can talk to find out who they are.
I think we need to begin that process, but he was pretty clear on the fact that this whole charter needs to be put together to be given to an attorney for basically a review and a look. And I read through most of these charters, and I think with the expertise that we have in this commission, that we should be able to write a pretty good one that can be reviewed by an attorney at the end of the process.
How do you feel about getting the budget and the charter from West Plains at this stage there? He seemed to think they did a really good job.
Are you saying that you can do that?
I don't know, but I can try.
Well, I think I'll designate you to do that, because I think that would be very important.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy. I guess what Jason was saying with the Article 1, I mean, it's a simple one-liner. And anybody that would look at half a dozen charters could easily see that the wordage in that is very simple. I think I would actually take a couple of volunteers that might want to work together on that and just present that at the next charter meeting. What's that? Article 1 and possibly Article 2. 2 or 3 people that might want to work on that part of it so that we can get that out of the way. Go ahead.
But you're saying that we are going to go in logistical order?
Yes,
Because I agree with Janet, it's going to be too mishmash if we do it that way. If we have a process and we're going through that, and if it's small, it's, easy to do, then we go on to the next one.
There's no reason to reinvent it. I mean, so I think the process is fairly simple. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah, again, my original suggestion, folks look at this ML old charter, but Article 1 right here, it says incorporation and boundaries, just a real quick example. It's really not that long. It really just adds Article 1, again, incorporation and boundaries, Charter City of Raytown, Missouri. Then you have the date. And it says, in order to provide for the government of the city of Raytown to secure the benefits and advantage of the constitutional home rule under the Constitution of the state of Missouri, the people of Raytown adopt the following charter. And there's an additional section that it's just a commentary of what this document is. And then Article 2 is very similar, and it's expressed in a, I don't want to say open-ended, because I don't like that word, but it's expressed in a way that we don't have to make charter rules for every little tiny detail. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, it's just a paragraph, but the city shall have all the powers of the General Assembly of the State of Missouri, has authority to confer upon any city, provided such powers are consistent with the Constitution of the state. And then it says are not limited or denied by either the charter or the statute or by statute. So something like that I feel would be something that's very frankly easy to write, and we could maybe have, maybe a few folks, if they want to, maybe write this out so that maybe we could discuss this at the next meeting and discuss Article 1 and 2 and maybe make changes to whatever, if people wish, to what these folks write, and we can discuss it and vote upon it. I think that would be, or at least a reading of it. I don't know what the process you guys want to do, but I think that would be a good start. That way we're getting some stuff done and getting kind of our feet wet.
With that, I would like one of the people to be on this group. Well, at all times, I think it'd be important that if we're gonna have to go to the city for information, that at least one of the points of contact is in a subcommittee to make sure that that information can get addressed through that point of contact. So, and then on this one, well, I think at this point, before we go any further, if we are going to have first and second readings of these, I think we need to make a motion for that.
Okay, let's see how it works here. I'll motion that we have a first reading and then a second reading and vote at the following meeting. I guess that's the correct way of wording it. That way folks have time to digest everything and have further time to investigate and debate. So again, my motion would be to have a first reading and then the second reading and vote at the next meeting.
Lisa?
You mean for every article we do, or not just the first ones?
And yes, for every article we do, or section, because some of these articles are actually pretty long once we get on down.
Good, Ted?
So, once it's read once, people digest it, they come back and make changes.
They would make suggestions, I think, at that point, because if we make a motion to adopt it,
How many times are we gonna read it once is my point.
just once.
So if you make changes to it after having read it once, that's still the first reading. And whatever changes you make, when you read that, that's the second reading.
Correct.
And so it'll be 3
Go ahead,
readings.
Charlotte. Go ahead.
Well, and then you read it, make whatever changes so that those changes would have been made for the second time it's read. And then if any changes are made to that, that would have to be amended. And then everybody agrees on it, okay, now we vote on it, and then it's done. So it's only 2 meetings.
That's, I count 3 meetings there. If we make changes in the second meeting and everybody's happy with those changes, why do we need to wait for another meeting?
No. Because at the second meeting, because we do the first reading, we discuss and make some changes, okay, everybody knows what those changes are, those are brought back at the second meeting. And so then that would be read again, are there any changes to be made? And then if there are, then we have to amend this. And then any discussion stuff, okay, everybody agrees on this, okay, yes, got a first, got a second, and then you vote on it, and you're done with that one. So you only got 2 meetings. Oh,
And the Board of Alderman practices the same kind of template.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to the motion? Lisa seconds. Any other discussion? Lisa, can you take a vote, please?
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Shannon Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green,
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell,
yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Mary Jane Van Busker.
Yes.
Okay. From that point then, Jason, I think we can continue with our discussion that you were having on the Article 1 and Article 2. At this point, maybe we might have a couple people that might want to volunteer for that part of it, right, to write those or to follow through with those. Do we have any interested?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ted. You like to participate? Okay, thanks, Ted. Anybody else? Lisa? Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes, Charlie.
Is this an email type of thing or a sit down, let's talk about it type of thing?
What would the sunshine rules?
If there are more than 3 people involved,
Right. Okay.
then it would have to be open discussion either at a sit-down meeting or an email.
But if there's 3,
Consent. If there's 3, it could be, yeah, anyone you want.
I have to tell you that if I'm on any one of these committees, my computer is being a real pain in the
That's
might want to join.
If no one else is interested in being the third person, I can serve as that. I'm fine with that, unless anyone else would like.
Well, I also keep in mind that I would like to get into Article 3 with the city council and just gathering information from the city, so that when we look at, you know,
Three of us sit down, it's gotta be a public meeting, in public.
I think I have 3, or more than 3.
I was more than two.
I know. I was on the city council first.
We're going to read it right now.
Because of interest. That's 3.
If it's more than 3 people, then
I think you need to find that out. I never, 3 people, no.
Okay, Jason, go ahead.
And while you're checking that out, if you prefer that I would help be one of the individuals on the Article 3, being that I currently am a board of alderman member, that I can express what I see on a day-to-day basis and give my impression, if you will. I deserve that as well. Again, sort of this commission decides, I'm fine with it.
Thank you. One and 2, correct. We're trying to make sure that we're correct on this, so be patient with us. I bet we know it after tonight. While they're looking that up then, the rest of us, we can kind of discuss Article 3, City Council. Actually, because we have several City Council people on the board, I'd like to have a subcommittee begin of 3, begin that process, and I'm going to allow Jason to act in my place as a point of contact with the city. For Article 3.
Greg, it also brings to your attention, this sheet is rather informative. I'm looking at the size of the charter, 2735 pages. But let's bring attention to how many days. We've got 17 articles roughly. We've got roughly 300 days. That gives us 16 to 20 days per article to be completed, if we're going to meet that milestone. So every meeting we will have to have completed at least one article.
That's correct. I know, and that's all I've been doing the last 2 weeks is this whole thing, numbers process.
Thank you for that.
Currently, we do have only 2 volunteers for this.
Well, I was gonna say that being the case,
Yeah,
until we have an answer to that,
we'll keep,
and then keep it to 2, we can start more of that.
correct. That's what I'm going to suggest.
I mean, right now, we're just writing, and we have a model to start from.
Exactly. My next point would be, is do we have to make a motion for the subcommittees?
Yeah.
Huh?
I think these steps, these
as long as we can do it informally, I mean, I don't see any problem with that. Charlotte, Virginia.
I'm not on the city council, I was, so I can have it again.
Okay. Charlotte?
And I have no problem helping the city council thing, but I also want to make sure that along this process, everybody's utilized.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so, you know, there's another one that comes up, you know.
There's like,
I'll
Mark
step
said,
back and
there's
somebody else-
17 of them.
Exactly. Right, but there's the two of us, so we want to make sure that, you know, throughout the process, that everybody's utilized in some capacity and something.
I am totally with that.
So with that, I will help with city council on that. That's two, I would have Jason and me.
And Zane.
I was saying.
One, two, we're 10 and you.
And then one for it was.
We're on ours for free.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, who was
Jason, Sandy, and Charlotte, it's allowed to have 3. Right. Jason. With that, I think that gets us into a position where we can start discussing these items. And with the template that we have, I think the information that we need to gather from the city should be pretty direct, and we should be able to get something written up on each one of those items. There is a good template for it. So I think at the next meeting we'll discuss obviously 1 and 2. Should be able to get those read and for the first one, and then on city council, I think that's going to take some time. So that might take a couple meetings. The next meeting, at that next meeting on the 27th, we're going to go ahead and move to get another article also started so that we can continue this process and basically have one thing after another as we go on. There are some additional articles in here that are pretty simple, so we'll just continue the process. At this, since it is going on 8:15, okay, Lisa does have a clarification on that. I'll let her read it from the Sunshine Law.
For instance, an example being electronic transmission of messages relating to public business and requirements. It states the provisions of this section shall only apply to messages sent to 2 or more members of that body. For instance, that would be one person giving information to 2 people, so that would be 3 people. It would be okay to not make it a public meeting, so to speak. So I will double check this tomorrow.
As long as it's electronic, is that the deal?
No, I think it applies to everything, any sort of communication. Basically, this is just fleshing out the electronic section.
Including in-person
I
communication?
believe so. I will double, triple check tomorrow just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Go ahead, Jason.
Lisa, when you double check tomorrow, could you obviously relay that information to the entire body?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I think this has been a pretty good start on things. Charlotte?
We haven't discussed the agenda or adjournment time.
We are going to do that next. But I just appreciate everybody's effort in trying to get to this point today. So let's thank everybody.
I do have another kind of throw in there.
Okay.
To think about is in some of the information that I was reading, there was information pertaining to if
the city council had we been on 14, or she been on 14. You understand?
Yeah, I understand, I'm just trying to remember who that person would be.
Well, that, now it would be Jerome Barnes. But, you know, I think it's
Yeah.
unfair to kind of go down the line.
Because those individuals did express, they did want it, and so, but my thing is, you know, if you have an individual, because if you have somebody that just says, I've had it, I'm out of here, or they just don't show up for meetings, that is something that as a group, you kind of have to have a guideline. Now, granted, if you get sick and you're out 3 meetings, you know, you're
I
sick.
think there should be.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
There should be some.
and I agree, and that's what I'm saying, right, I mean, but you kind of have to weigh those
So
options.
6 in a row, I mean.
And keep in mind, we're going into summer vacation season.
Okay, and, okay, Lisa, go ahead.
And as I understand it, I'm not sure that is possible. The thing is, it's an elected position, it's like a county committee, we cannot throw people off if they don't show up, but we can ask them to resign. I'm not sure, we'll have to check the statutes on that if it's an issue, because I do not think you can automatically move somebody into the position. I could be wrong. We'll need to look at that to make sure.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, Mr. Markins alluded to that in the conversation. I think his suggestion, though, was along your point, though, that if somebody's resigned from the commission,
Right.
that we have the authority to replace them. And so, I mean, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, for myself, if somebody's resigned, I'm perfectly fine with having the authority to replace them. Again, that's something that he alluded to, and I think it's something to
There's
consider.
a difference between resigning and just plain not showing up.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I would just state again that we have to be absolutely sure we can actually do that. And
Well, Charlotte's gonna look it up for us, so.
Don't wait on
oh,
meetings.
but
Well, I know.
at the time of the elections, I know they can have up to 13 people, but it's not necessarily considered a vacancy if you have over 7 or 8, I can't remember which. So if only 7 or 8 people hadn't been on the ballot, or if more people had been but nobody had gotten a vote, then you don't have to fill up to 13 seats. You have to have at least 7 or 8, and then the further it's not considered a vacancy.
Mary Jane.
Well, I just have a question. If we are unable to make a meeting due to illness, or say we're going to be out of town on vacation or whatever, I think we need to notify the chairman with the reason that we are missing the meeting. It's just like, I just don't feel like coming tonight. I don't think that's acceptable. And I think we need to, if we file for this position, then I think we ought to carry it through. If we're not going to carry it through, then we need to just drop off and give it to somebody else and not hold the process up. And I think we definitely need to let either you or Jason know if we're going to be unable to attend and the reason why we cannot attend.
Well, I would definitely agree with that, but can I say either myself or I'm asking Jason, but also Lisa, because she's getting the information out to, I mean, she's like my,
That's fine.
okay,
It's fine. Any
as long as there's some kind of
three of you,
correspondence.
but I think that somebody, on the board or in the high seat here needs to know.
And I would prefer that it doesn't come from word of mouth from somebody else, that somebody else isn't going to show
Right.
up.
It's the individual that has to call.
Right.
So,
Well, unless that individual is really sick and speak like I was a couple of weeks ago. And I'm pretty sure not on boards.
okay, where are we at on that?
It sounds like a problem that
Sure, are you volunteering to look at it?
hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's in here somewhere.
We'll find it out.
And I'll email.
Maybe we can defer to that in a later meeting.
I don't think we're going to do that.
We'll work it out when it happens.
I mean, I'm really excited that this group will stick together and get this thing done, so. All right, before we go to adjournment, I had talked with Lisa about the times and dates that are available, and she has Go ahead,
further
AJ.
discussion.
You may have to go a little longer than 8:30 if you allow public comment in there 20 minutes for public comment.
2 hours after public comment.
I think 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Cool. Anything else? Anybody else?
Discussion.
All right, so I'll just say, due to the information we now have on City Hall's schedule, I move we amend the standing rule regarding meetings to read as follows. We will meet in the City Hall Council Chambers at 6:30 p.m. on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of May, the 2nd and 4th Mondays of June, July, and August, the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of September, and the 2nd and 4th Mondays of October. In other words, as the expected meeting dates currently appear on our website. Also adding that our adjournment will be at 9 o'clock p.m.
I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please we take a vote on it.
Can I discuss briefly? I have on the website the suggested meeting days, and that should clarify what it is for everybody, because I know I read off some crazy stuff right there, so I will make sure everybody sees that. Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green.
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Sandra Harpo,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Mary Jane Youngles.
Yes.
That's 9-4 and 0 against.